Yo guys, shout out to Mr. Iron. He saw that I was doing a giveaway here recently for Forsaken. He said, hey man, let me add another one to that stockpile. He donated some money for us to give an extra copy away for Forsaken. So guys, as of right now, we are giving away 4 copies of Forsaken. This is the standard edition. It will be pulled on the 30th of this month. So much love to him, man. With that being said, let's talk about today's video. I want to talk about competitive. I want to talk about Iron Banner and its matchmaking. I also want to talk about Redrix Broadsword. Now, the big thing about the Broadsword is we recently got the quest details of what we're looking at in terms of how to achieve it if you didn't achieve Claymore this past season. Now, the comparison I want to make is, well, which one is actually going to take you longer? Is the quest steps for Season 4 going to take you longer? Or would grinding through Seasons 3 competitive playlists take you longer? Now, let's touch up on these quest steps. So first off, Step 1, in the Crucible, you need to defeat 200 opponents with Pulse Rifle Final Blows. Step 2, reach the Valor rank Heroic. Step 3, earn 75 double plays. Step 4, in Crucible, defeat 150 opponents with Precision Final Blows from any pulse rifle. Step 5, in Crucible, defeat 50 opponents with arc final blows, defeat 50 opponents with solar final blows, defeat 50 opponents with void final blows. Step 6, complete 25 Crucible matches of quick play, 25 matches of competitive, and 25 matches of rumble. Step 7, complete 20 Crucible bounties. Step 8, reset your Valor rank 5 times within a single season. And then Step 9, you visit Lord Shaxx to get your reward. Now, if you got the Claymore from Season 3, you will be able to skip all of these things and immediately start getting Broadswords as drops. Now, the hot debate is, well, which one's more difficult? Well, one is of length. It's a marathon, and that's what the Season 4 quest line is. That is a lot, fellas. Now, we've already been told that Valor is going to have 3 times XP on certain weekends. So for things like your reset there for your Valor, that's going to be really nice. But something that they have not mentioned is the fact that all these steps going to have to be done in this fashion in the chronological order that it's stated. As in, can I already be working on Step 5 with Arc, Solar, and Void Final Blow kills while simultaneously finishing up Step 2? Hopefully, you can do all of these steps simultaneously. Now, the debate is which one of these actually would take you longer, or which one is more difficult. I would still say Season 3 grinding through competitive rank is still more difficult. I mean, because here's the thing, it's not a marathon run. You can keep loading yourself over and over again into that competitive playlist. But if you can't win, you're not going anywhere. So for me, Season 3's competitive grind to Claymore is far worse than what you're going to be receiving in Season 4. Now, before you give up on this Season 3 Claymore grind, there is a saving grace to all of this. Something no one has even brought up until here recently. And it was actually my clanmate QJ, because him and DMG raid together. DMG said that actually next week, the competitive playlist will still be available with the new Sandbox. And that it may even be possible Radar could be already back in the playlist. That is kind of up in the air. So essentially what we're saying, guys, is the very last week of Season 3. That is the August the 28th. This is next Tuesday. For that entire week, you can have an opportunity to go for the Claymore with the new Sandbox and possibly Radar in competitive. I said that the Season 3 grind for Claymore is difficult, but in terms of length, the Season 4 grind is much longer. Guys, you could easily, if you had a decent team, and I know that's still difficult to get, but if you had a decent team, you can easily get Claymore in 3 to 4 days. It is a grind. I agree. It's a grind. But now that win streaks don't reset, you have a really good team and a new Sandbox on top of that, with possibly Radar coming back. I honestly think it could be the easiest and fastest way to get Claymore, thus bypassing the Season 4 quest line for Broadsword. So I would highly advise, maybe this week, if you want to go ahead and start putting a little bit of a cut in it, start getting your points up in the competitive playlist, just get to somewhere around 250, 500. And then grind out the rest of the way with that brand new Sandbox, with Radar possibly. Get a good team, hit those win streaks, and I can promise you, fellas, it will be the easiest, quickest, fastest grind starting next week for Claymore. Okay, with that being said, let's move on, guys. I want to talk about Iron Banner and the matchmaking that's been happening. And yeah, I've been concerned. So Iron Banner this past week came up. It was a new kind of rule sets to control. I really liked it. I loved the whole lockout system. I thought that was so much fun. I think a lot of us didn't really focus on the objective a lot when it was just normal control. This really made you pay attention. Unfortunately, it really screws you over if you're a solo player, because as most solo players, the objective game types are not normally catered to you. Not that any game type is really catered to solos, especially with the current matchmaking system, but it's just that the objective demands that there be some sort of team chemistry, especially when it comes to capping zones. Other than that, Iron Banner got my approval in its game type. Where it did not get my approval, where I am very upset, and where I am most concerned about is the matchmaking that Bungie implemented for this banner. You see, almost a month ago, Crucible got the highest ratings that it's ever received. Everybody was loving Crucible. And this was not just from the top tier players, this was from the casuals, everyone in between, and there was a lot of people that were posting up the results from games, and what I saw was the results that were being posted were from guns and loadouts and weapons that you don't normally see. I was seeing people actually try new things. Now, the current matchmaking system that was implemented this past week was obviously a scaled up skill-based matchmaking of some sort. The problem with skill-based matchmaking is that there begins to be a bar being raised with each game. You go in, you realize you're playing very poorly, you start changing your loadouts. You notice you're getting killed over and over again by a Graviton Lance, an Anti-Ope, a Vigilance Wing, so you start making different adjustments to your loadout. And before you know it, you in the entire lobby, because of skill-based matchmaking, is now rocking as hardcore meta as you possibly can to balance yourself. Now, some people say Iron Banner should be hardcore. It is a hardcore game type. Unfortunately, I felt like Quick Play also had some levels of skill-based matchmaking in it as well. As in, this almost seemed like it was something game-wide that Bungie has implemented into the matchmaking system in both Quick Play and in Iron Banner. Am I being overly cautious about this? Absolutely. Skill-based matchmaking is one thing to include in mid-season. However, with Forsaken right around the corner, it concerns me because when people are getting new weapons, when people are messing with a new sandbox, it can easily become a race to find the meta. However, having something like connection-based matchmaking in place over skill-based, especially when it comes to quick play, you now have a system that doesn't necessarily force you to obtain or find that meta. Instead, you're trying out a lot of different things, you're using a lot of different things, you're exploring the sandbox for yourself, and you don't feel constrained or squeezed to find the best weapon in your loadout. So guys, yeah, I know I'm being overly concerned here, but with the sandbox that's coming around next week, and a new DLC that's coming a week after that, skill-based matchmaking has never been something that has made that transition easy, and I am completely against it. Again, a month ago, for the past 3-4 weeks almost, I've seen Crucible have the highest reviews ever since the beginning of Destiny 1. Skill-based matchmaking is something that was implemented halfway through year 2, and it persisted through Rise of Iron. And immediately right after Rise of Iron, once Clever Dragon was introduced, the meta was outlined very quickly, which essentially was a Clever Dragon that was god rolled and a full auto Matador. Now, I know there's players out there that believe the meta will always persist. There will always be weapons that rise to the top, and I will say, yeah, there's always going to be weapons out there that are just better by default. But there's players that I feel like that are very much like myself. I almost feel like I'm cheating on all my guns when I don't use them enough. I look at Half Dan, I apologize to the Dan because I haven't used them in almost 6 months, and I want to be able to put Dan on and not necessarily slay out. I don't have to slay out. Matter of fact, I don't ever slay out with these non-meta weapons. But I definitely want to go in there and not feel like I'm having to sweat my balls off because some guy is sitting in the back of the map with a Graviton Lance who refuses to move. And it's one thing to just have one player on the enemy team doing that, but when the entire enemy team is playing with that playstyle, it's because of a larger outlining problem. And it's because skill-based matchmaking has pushed them even more into that mindset. And they are absolutely unwilling to experiment and try out things in a playlist that is meant to allow that. So guys, I want skill-based matchmaking completely out of the game in terms of quick play, even in things like Iron Banner. I think there's some hardcore playlists in the game. I think the competitive playlist is that hardcore playlist. I also think that another hardcore playlist is Trials. But things like quick play, Iron Banner, and even things like Gambit, I do not believe need to have skill-based matchmaking in place. So guys, let me know in the comments below what you think. Overall, if you got free time next week to grind for Claymore and you're looking to save a lot of time next season, do it. It would definitely be your week to do it, especially if you're going to be a fan of this next Sandbox. I know me personally, I'll probably be on my Xbox account and either go ahead and get the Claymore over there, or I might just go ahead and grind down to rank 5 on my PlayStation account. I haven't decided yet, but I'm shooting for next week to be the easiest and best week to do the grinding. So guys, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.